Okay, so while this is gluing up, I just thought we'd spend sort of, while I'm waiting for that to dry, to set, we spend a couple of minutes just talking about gear, because everybody wants to know about gear, what cameras to use. As if, you know, having the best and greatest camera is going to give you better YouTube videos. I mean, on one level, it may do up to a point. On another level, the best and greatest will probably just confuse you, because it certainly confused me. I shot my first YouTube video on my phone, not this one, the previous generation one, iPhone 6. And that worked really well. I was really pleased with that. I shot and edited my second video on the phone, and that was all fine. What slowed me down a lot was getting the video off the phone. I don't connect my phone to my laptops by cable anymore. I haven't done that for many years. I didn't want it to go through all that iTunes syncing nonsense. And my laptop was so old that it didn't do the Wi-Fi connecting. Anyway, I ended up getting the camera that you're watching me shoot this on now. This is a Panasonic Fz200. I wish I had a mirror. I could do the whole sort of Casey Neistat thing, couldn't I? Let me just see if I can do this. Yeah, that's what you look like. It's a Panasonic Fz200. Little sort of compact travel zoom camera. I bought it because it was the cheapest one I could get with a flip-up screen. I paid 90 something pounds for this, refurbished from Tesco, and it's okay. The sound isn't great on it, which is you know, slightly problematic. It's not bad when you're this close to it, but when you're this far away or when you're outdoors, it's not very good at all. It wasn't really doing what I needed, and it doesn't have an external microphone jack. So then I bought this one, which I'm using now as my overhead camera, and this was a Panasonic Fz200. It's been great. Really pleased with this. Shoots HD video, has an external microphone jack. The only slightly weird thing is it's a 2.5mm jack instead of a 3.5, so you need a little adapter cable. With all these cameras, the onboard microphones really aren't very good. They're fine for, you know, shooting pictures of your kids at the beach, but to get sort of halfway good audio out of it, you need something a little bit better. Has a flip out and fully articulating screen, which is a must, because if you're working on your own, getting yourself in shot is really hard. And on a slightly sort of technical note, it has a very good zoom on this, and also a constant 2.8 aperture. And I was spoiled a little bit by this. I stuck this on program, on autofocus, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, the tripod blew over while I was shooting way back in. I was doing the Victorian style fence. Tripod blew over and just dinged the lens very slightly. So I get a slight specular highlight, little sort of bokeh kind of highlight in certain conditions, which is really annoying. And also I started getting some weird artifacting. I lost an entire... I was doing one of the quick videos quickly because, you know, I had a full workshop. I think it was the guide rail jig one, and I lost half of the shots on that because I honestly, to this day, I still don't know exactly what went wrong with it. And of course, since I've replaced it and moved on, it's been behaving perfectly. But it was like almost like the ISO was cranking up way high, and you're getting really sort of nasty artifacting. It looked okay on a thumbnail if you're looking at a small image, but at full screen, full res, it looked horrible. In fact, if you go back and have a look at that guide rail jig video, you might notice that all the overhead shots, I'm actually wearing a slightly different shirt. Nobody's noticed so far, so much for continuity. So I bought this, and then, as I say, a few little niggles started happening with this. That meant I wanted to replace it, and I ended up with this guy. This is the new Panasonic Lumix G80. I'm not a total Panasonic fanboy. It's just, once you've got that, the batteries are the same, and you know, it's easy. This one shoots 4K. Haven't tried it yet, but it gives you the option to move up to that. Obviously, you know, fully catered for with external microphone jacks. I've upgraded to a Rode Videomic Pro. Incidentally, I had a little sort of cheap and cheerful 20 quid microphone, shotgun mic off eBay or Amazon. I don't even know what it is. It's a K&F Concept CM500. It works fine, you know. Worked great. All the old videos were shot on that. This one is better. It is more sensitive, but the camera was a basket full of trouble, to be honest. The autofocus just isn't as good as the old one. You probably saw all the headaches I had with colour and everything. So now I'm shooting everything on manual focus, manual exposure, manual everything, and that seems to be behaving itself. But yeah, it's a bit of a, you know, the quality is very good. It is absolutely better than the little, you know, travel zoom bridge style camera. The trouble with these bridge style cameras is they're DSLR-like, but all the controls are, you know, like a compact. I'm an old school SLR guy, so I'm much happier with this kind of thing. This is a Micro Four Thirds, and I've got an Olympus 12-20, excuse me, 12-40 2.8 zoom on there. Panasonic make a 12-35, and I just wanted a bit more reach, and again constant f2.8, which is very nice. Although, you know, now I've changed my lights in here, I could probably get away with less. But honestly, the story you're telling is far more important than any piece of gear. You know, the most important piece of gear is, you know, between your ears and a pen in your hand, so you can explain what you're doing comfortably. And the cameras and stuff, well, they're just to record a, you know, halfway sharp, halfway audible set of images for you. Okay, so back in my palatial office here, end of the working day, all the workshop stuff is done for the day, all the cameras get cleaned up, wiped down, all the batteries get charged afresh, regardless of whether they were fully depleted or not, and all the camera cards, the little chips, are all cleared. I've already done the first two in order to get this camera back, and I'm just doing the overhead camera now. And all I do, drag those across to a external hard drive folder, and then I just go through them and I rename them in order. So 01, 02, 03 with H for the high shot or whatever else, and it just keeps it in a logical way. And then when it comes to editing, I can just drag those in into a timeline in your editing software, and they appear in the right order. Then makes life a little bit easier. But there we are. A day shooting, which is only 5 hours, and it's 19 gig in total, which is quite a lot. And we're not finished yet. You know, we've still got a way to go. So yeah, you know, it's a lot of images to move around. But anyway, I'll just rename these, and then we'll get back into the workshop tomorrow and get the rest of it finished. Okay, so it's the next day. I'm back in the workshop. I've put a few hours in back home in the office, doing a rough edit on what we shot yesterday. Again, that's not just a sort of humble brag. That's how this works. You know, I put a couple of hours editing in early in the morning, and again in the evening. So instead of sitting watching football with a cold beer, I'm sort of editing. So back in the workshop now. Next job is to get this unclamped, get this cleaned up, and just sort of tidy up the edges a little bit with some filler. I mean, one of the things, I've swapped cameras. I don't know if you can tell. Hopefully you can. It makes it worthwhile. But using the little sort of vlogging camera, the little point and shoot yesterday, reminded me why I stopped using it. It wasn't that the audio just wasn't great. It was, we're getting some weird sort of artifacting on it, sort of in the background, and I don't know what that is. And again, I've never found out why. It's not on every shot, and it's almost impossible to get rid of. So I've swapped back to the camera that replaced the Fz200 with the little cheap and cheerful shotgun microphone on it. So hopefully this is all working a little bit better. But yeah, next order of the day is to get this unclamped and get this the edges cleaned up and see if they need any little dab of 2-pack filler. Then we can get into getting the skirting board done. With the work unclamped, I can scrape off any excess glue squeeze, then give all the faces a thorough sanding, taking care not to round over any edges. So that's cleaned up pretty well. The edges on this are pretty good. They pull in nice and tight when you get a nice flush edge with a domino in there. The glue line holds pretty well. But I'm going to run some 2-pack resin over these joins just to help seal it up a little bit. I tend to think that it's going off to be sprayed. The painters will do their job from the priming side of things, but it's my job to get it prepped as good as I can, as if I was painting it, and I'd want a little bit of 2-pack on those joins, so I'll do that now. So next task is to machine the profile for the skirting board, the baseboard. This is the same as I use for the raised panel, so I'm using my panel raising bit. You can go off. So I'm using my panel raising bit in the router table, router bench, and I don't have a sample of what I did before. I've got some measurements, so I just need to run a few tests to make sure that they're the right sort of dimension. Then I can run everything through. After a couple of tests, I remembered that I cut this profile in 2 passes, moving the fence back by 12mm to increase the height of the profile. And with that figured out, it's an easy job to run everything through. By now the 2-pack resin has set and can be sanded back nice and smooth on all sides. Okay, so with everything rubbed back nice and smooth and all the edges filled, the only thing we've got left to do is to fit our skirting board, our baseboard. We'll cut this at the miter saw here. But first of all, I need to make the introduction to camera. So with everything sanded back, nice and smooth, all the joins filled and looking rather lovely, all that's left now, the only job left is to cut and fit the baseboard, the skirting board here. We'll do that on the miter saw and we'll get that fitted in the usual way. I know this column is square, so all miters are simple 45 degrees, and I'm offering up a cut piece, marking it and cutting again. To make the glue up easier, I've clamped the sides in place while I pin the front section, then work my way around. A dab of filler and some careful sanding finishes everything up. Okay, well, for the last of our bits of hand sanding done, that's pretty much complete. That's just about ready to go and paint. Obviously we've already recorded our outro. There's not a great deal more to do with that at the moment. But we've got quite a lot to do with what we shot today. We've got to get the voiceovers done. Plus of course we need to do thumbnails and all that sort of stuff. So we'll probably pack this up for now, head back to the office and start working on the edit and the voiceovers.